It's time for another episode of The Connector here on GINX, and I've got a special treat for us. We've done players, we've done coaches, we've even done commentators, but now we're deep diving into the world of observing. And for me, Rush, even though he's a humble man and he won't ever admit this, I think he is the best observer going in CSGO because of the way he innovates stuff, the new things he tries. We're even getting to see him take on more camera stuff. So Rush, to start with, how are you doing, mate?
I'm great, James. How are you doing? I'm glad to be here.
Hey, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good, even with all this madness going on, right? We still get to have some. We're still getting plenty of Counter-Strike action as well, which is always a good thing.
It never ends. It never ends.
Definitely never ends for you as well, right? You probably just get lost in the amount of maps and everything you have to do. But before we get into the gaming stuff, I wanted to start with like the early life of Rush, right? Who is the man behind the name in terms of where you grew up and how your early life started, what your family life was like, and has gaming always been a part of your life, or did this come at a later stage to you?
Yeah, well, originally I'm from Chesterfield, England, which is a very small town. It's close to Sheffield, if you know that. If you don't know that, it's close to Manchester. You probably will know that, but that's where I came from. And yeah, all my life I pretty much have been playing games. We had consoles from as long as I can remember. I remember playing one of the Call of Duties like on my dad's PC a long time ago.
Ooh, PC as well. That's good.
Yeah, we didn't. I don't think it was. I have very vague memories of this. I remember playing it, and we definitely didn't have a gaming PC, so I don't remember much. But I definitely did play Call of Duty back then. But we also had like a PlayStation 1. I played a lot of Spyro the Dragon every year at Christmas. I'd get
Oh, I
the
love
Spyro game. So that was, yeah, gaming's been in my family the entire time, really. My dad games a bit, my brother games a bit. My mom doesn't game much. I think she plays Candy Crush maybe, but other than that, I don't know.
So in terms of gaming, right, at a young age, so I know like for me, my parents didn't really have any involvement in gaming. My dad kind of started to pick up Sega and stuff when I was a bit older, but like mine, it wasn't massively accepted in terms of like, oh yeah, you should go and do this. They were definitely pushing on the education side of things more. Did you kind of get to have a good balance? Were your parents pretty understanding of your love of gaming?
Yeah, well, I never like run into problems in school. I wasn't the brightest kid ever, but I didn't
Nice.
really have any issues in that regard. So I just came home, I played games. All my school friends had Xbox 360, so we just played 360 games all night long, Halo, Gears of War, whatever. And my parents never really had an issue with it, to be honest. I was getting work done, and they knew I was doing it, so they were fine with it.
Oh, brilliant. So you've got the positive side of this with it. Now, you just said something there. It's like, oh, I wasn't that smart. Now, Rush, when I speak to you, when we have conversations at events and things that aren't even CSGO related, I always see you as quite like a smart guy in terms of how you look at the world. You're always very happy as well. And I think I've only ever seen you unhappy once out of all the events and stuff we've worked with here. You generally seem to have more of like a, not carefree, but just like, I'm enjoying what I do, I'm having a good time, and this is life. Do you ever find yourself in like a position where you're thinking, oh, this is just terrible, I want to do something else? Because I haven't seen it from you.
Not really. Sometimes when there's a lot of work going on, maybe I'll think, oh, I want a couple of days off here or something
Yeah.
like that. But I always get plenty of time off after events, stuff like that. So I never feel like burnt out and anger or anything like that. But also, I'm in a control room a lot of the time with a lot of other people as well. And some of those people in there are working much longer hours than I would be.
Yeah.
So I always try to come in and be the positive guy. You know, if I can make someone smile every day, that's a good day.
You definitely do. I remember times of me getting stressed and coming over and just having a chat with you. And that generally helps me out and having a
Yeah,
rushly talk.
I try to mellow everybody else out, get everyone laughing, and then everyone has a good time. We should be able to have a good show, hopefully.
Now, you did try to go to university, but you decided to drop out of it. So, talk to me about your reasons for dropping out of university and why it wasn't for you. Because, especially when we're looking at today's climate, university back when we were kids was like, oh, you should go. It's a must have thing. But I think more and more, the skills and the abilities of what we can just learn and teach ourselves and show actually prove again that university doesn't need to be for everyone and there's other ways of doing things.
Yeah, it's definitely true. I mean, it was that thing where you said it's like you go to university, you do higher education, you just go to university, and so I was subscribed to that as well. But you know, I made the classic issues of I didn't really look into stuff that I really wanted to do. It was more like, oh, I could probably do this, and this sounds okay-ish, and I just kind of went into uni and I studied like construction-based like related stuff, and I was doing it for a while. I enjoyed it, and I had like a few like mental health issues at the time. I developed a panic disorder like before going to uni. I basically felt like I was going to pass out all the time,
Oh,
and
God.
that is just, yeah, that wasn't a fun time. So that kind of messed me up a bit. So that combined with I really didn't enjoy what I was studying at all. It became more and more focused on the aspects I didn't like about the course and less about the stuff I found interesting. And after a while, I just made the choice, yeah, because at this point I'd started to have, some good stuff going on the side, and I thought I don't really want to be doing this anymore.
So I'm someone who suffered with like depression. I've had anxiety, and it's definitely a tough thing to do. But I found gaming was a massive help in that. Was that similar for you with your panic attacks, and that
Oh
gaming was
yeah,
a bit of an
definitely.
escape?
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, because I felt like I couldn't do a lot of stuff outside. I didn't really like meeting people or anything because I had that constant fear. Oh God, I'm going to pass out,
Yeah.
which never happened. It was just an irrational thing, and I've worked through it, and it's gone now. But yeah, gaming definitely helped because I had a lot of online friends. I would play with people from all around the world. I was socializing, communicating, but just all online basically for a good like year and a half, I would say, while I was going through that
Um,
period.
and from my experiences, right, especially with my anxiety, being able to talk to people online was like a way of doing what I couldn't do outside in a environment that was safe and I was controlled and I could just leave at any time. So I'm guessing it was very similar for you. And do you have some good memories of like kind of feeling actually at peace while you're doing it? Because that's definitely the feeling I got.
Definitely, yeah, and it helped because I actually spoke to some people about the issues I was going through, and
Mm,
some other people have the same. A lot of people have this issue as well. Like some people have the different panic where they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna die," or "I'm gonna pass out," or they have like a million different things. And I was speaking to someone online who I met through Daisy and stuff like that, and
hmm.
he had the exact same thing, and it was great to talk to people like that. Nothing helps with that kind of stuff more than talking to someone else who's going
Yeah.
through it, and then you can be like, oh, I'm not crazy. This is pretty normal, and this guy has it, and I feel better from it, knowing about his struggles.
And that's the beauty of not just gaming but the internet, because like when you're just stuck in your bubble, right, and you didn't have the ability to talk to all these people, you might not even know someone that has something similar. But in
Oh yeah, I
this
mean
world, we
this
can
this
open
guy
up.
was from Ireland, so
Oh
there was
wow.
never a chance I
See,
would have met him otherwise. So it was perfect.
gotta love it. Gotta love it. Now, going into gaming, right? What was your first competitive game or your first memories of some sort of competitive gaming?
So the first online game I ever played was on Xbox 360, and it was
Hmm.
Saints Row.
Oh
And
wow. Okay.
yeah, nobody even knows it has an online, but it had some fun game modes. I don't want to go into because it's definitely not. Yeah, I can't talk about that. But
Not
it was
TV
more
safe. We
Gears.
know
Yeah,
Saints
no,
Row.
no, 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 no. But I played some more Gears of War, and that was more competitive. I would say I
Yeah.
tried to get into like a school clan that we had going on, and I eventually made it in there. But we didn't really play any proper games. It was more like a group sort of thing. But Gears of War was like the first game I played where I was trying to beat the other team for sure.
Mm. So did you ever try or think about going pro and looking at that side of things in any game? Was that ever a goal of yours?
I always knew there were people that were insane at these games, and I
Mm.
like playing games. I play them all the time. I sink crazy hours into, especially games like Counter Strike. But I'm not. I never under the impression that I could go pro. I definitely don't have that little bit of talent. Every good play I've ever made in any game I've worked for,
Yeah.
and I don't have any like baseline talent to amplify it. Basically, so no. In terms of going pro, I know I would suck. Basically.
Mate, I've seen you play CS. You are very capable. You're a dab hand of that, but I know you've got the hours in it as well. But before we get into CSGO, I want to talk about your DayZ career as such, right? Because you found a lot of success in DayZ, a game that you loved, and it was at its time extremely popular. But you were even making YouTube videos for it as well. So how did that all come about?
Well, the year was 2013, James.
Here
That's
we go.
basically when Daisy. That's when I started playing it. That
Yeah.
honestly, in my life timeline, that's like a rebirth period. I would say in my life, to be honest,
Ooh,
because
how come?
it was just because at that point I was just playing online. I didn't really have like a sense of community online before
Hmm.
that. It was more I was just playing with some random people here and there, random people that I'd met. But at that point, I like actually got into a community and stuff, and we'd sit on a team speak, and I would know everybody inside the team speak. I could go talk to any of them. I was friendly with everyone,
Yeah.
so that was the first time I had a community real feeling. But yeah, I started to play a lot of Daisy, and I loved that game. That was my favorite game for a long time. I mean, I was always playing CS on the side,
Mm.
but I would spend like 6, 7 hours a day just playing Daisy, pretty much.
What drew you to Jay-Z? Why was that like the game of choice for you? Because obviously everyone has their love for it and reasons why. Like I always came from CS and that's how I obviously sit here doing this now. But for you, right, Daisy was still quite a niche at that time.
Oh, yeah, big time. There weren't that many people playing it when I was doing it, that's for sure. But it was more because I hadn't really played any games which had a grand scale kind of thing, and it was based in the engine, which is like a military simulator engine. So everything was very, very realistic. And I'm not
Mm.
too much of a realism guy, but there was something about it where I look over the fields of Chinaris, where that's the map that Daisy's on,
Yep.
and it looks like British countryside to me, rolling hills, some forests here and there. So it felt, even though it's a video game, it felt incredibly real. And the aspect of where you had completely random players running around on this map, which is massive. You have no obligation to kill them. You can talk to them. You can do whatever you want with them. Basically, it was completely up to you. There was nothing. There was no rules. You could just do what you want. So if you wanted, hey, that guy's a nice gun, I'm going to shoot him. Or this guy seems nice, I'm going to risk talking to him, and I could die and lose all my stuff. It was just a completely unique game. There's nothing out like it at the time, and I fell in love with it for sure.
And with Daisy, so you were before Daisy just kind of sat there and playing with random people in different games. Then you get into Daisy, you find your first community, you find the people you can get on with. And do you think that was a driving force into why you got creative in it and why you took it to another level compared to other games?
Well, I think I'd met someone called Cy Syndicate at the time, who was a Daisy YouTuber.
Okay.
And I would like appear in a lot of his videos and stuff like that. And there was a lot of people like in the comments always saying, and I would appear on his streams like, hey, you make YouTube videos and stream it as well. And it was basically from that, because I could make videos and people would watch, and it would kind of like it just felt very right at the time. And I made YouTube videos, but I wasn't too into YouTube. And then I started streaming more, and I much preferred streaming. Streaming was good fun.
So it started with YouTube, and you were getting good viewership with that as well, and then it went into streaming. So how was streaming Daisy for you? What was the like the motivation behind it, and what kind of viewership and stuff were you getting? What was the draws?
Well, the draw was I got to play Daisy all day, and because I managed to get sub buttons, stuff like that, so I was getting like a small income from it as well. So it was, and honestly, at that point in my life, I'd never really had a job or anything, so I'd never really made my own money, and that was the first time where I was like, oh, I'm playing a video game here. These nice people online are supporting me doing this, and that was like snowballed it for me, and I just got to play Daisy every day. So it was great fun for me. That was good times.
And were you still, so I guess at this point you'd already dropped out of uni, but had you also kind of got over the panic attacks at this point, or was it still something you were battling?
Well, I was partially streaming while I still was at uni, and then that's when I spoke to my parents at that point and said, yeah, I don't really want to do uni anymore. I think it would be good if I focused on this kind of stuff. And reluctantly, they were fine with it. But the panic, yeah, that was the thing where, because I did get help with it, I actually did cognitive behavioral therapy, because a lot of people don't, look into that kind of stuff. And I didn't use that more of a thing to talk about, my problems to a certain degree. It was more to learn about the whole thing as a whole, because I didn't understand what was going on with me. I had no idea. I was just feeling incredibly weird all the time, and I just wanted more information. So I saw a guy who was like a set length program as well, so it wasn't like an ongoing thing, and that helped me a crazy amount. It was a thing where time heals all wounds kind of thing, where it just took me time, and then now I don't even think about it. There's never a point where I'm outside and I go, oh God. But that used to happen to me all the time. So I guess esports helped with that, because I had suddenly to start taking a lot of flights, and I was around people a lot, because it was lingering as I started this stuff. But while I've been doing this more, it's just it's not even in my mind anymore.
And that's wild, right? Because to be able to, like, when I first met you, for example, I would have never known this about you without finding out here and now. So I can see there's a huge change in it. Maybe you realize as well, like that. Okay, this is completely gone, which is a big props to you, man.
It's a relief.
Yeah, I bet. I could only imagine. Now, getting into CS:GO, you said even during Daisy, you were aware of CS:GO, you were playing it a bit, but Daisy was your main game. So how did this transition happen that got you more into CS:GO and stopping doing the Daisy content and stuff like that?
Well, I also should say, originally when I got my PC, the game I originally wanted to play on it was actually Counter-Strike Source.
Oh no, Rush, why are you doing this to me?
However,
no.
I never played Counter-Strike Source in like a normal way. I only played like the custom games. I played a lot of Surf. I played a lot of like Zombie Escape. I just played the custom mods, and I would play them late into the night. I remember being at my parents' home, and the sun went down and the sun went up, and I was still playing like Zombie Escape, something ridiculous like that. So Counter-Strike Source was the game that I really wanted to play, because I knew it would run on most PCs, and it was cheap, and it was just a game you could jump in and play instantly. So I never played properly in that. So
okay, I'll let you off, mate. It's a 1.6. I don't even like to think Source exists. So yeah, this is acceptable. You can continue.
I can understand it. I understand it. But when CS:GO got announced, I was like, well, I love Counter-Strike Source. Why not just keep playing CS:GO? So I played CS:GO, and even then, I still didn't really play properly. I played like 1,000 hours of like the casual mode. So it was like 8v8, and I just played
Oh
a lot
wow.
of that, and I loved it. I never had any intention to even play 5v5, and then
Damn.
eventually I had some friends who wanted to, like, play matchmaking and stuff like that, and
Hmm.
then I just started playing it more, and it's just a game that's always been there. New games come out, I play them, but always on the side is Counter Strike, always, no
Yeah.
matter what.
And that seems to be the way for many people with it. Now, you said about your friends in CSGO starting to let you play 5v5s and stuff. Did these come from DayZ, or was these new friends you met in CS? How did this work?
They were basically from that DayZ community, really, because there's quite a few
Aha.
that still played Counter Strike in there, and we would just mess around, and then yeah, eventually they were like, well, why don't we just play some 5v5? And I was very against it because I was just against it. I don't love playing competitively because I play different, and then I play worse. When I'm
Yeah.
playing casually, I'm just messing around, jumping around, having a good time. If I kill a guy, hey, cool. If I could die, whatever, it doesn't even matter. But in competitive, obviously, that does matter. So
Oh
that was my
yes.
reasons against it. But yeah, they were DayZ guys, and we just played a lot of Counter Strike together after that.
Now, my last thing on DayZ, and this is probably more recent, is I saw some videos of you guys playing not too long ago. I believe it was you, Chad, Pansy, and a few others
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
involved in it. Is this something you still go back and do from time to time just to relive the memories and have some
Uh,
fun?
yeah, still very interested in DayZ because I was playing the DayZ mod back in the day,
Yeah.
and the DayZ standalone came out, and it was, to a lot of DayZ players, it was very disappointing. There's a lot of stuff you couldn't do, which you could do in the mod, but
Hmm.
the game now, at the state it's in, it has mod support enabled, so playing it now is actually better than playing it back then.
Oh,
So I,
wow.
I do actually like jumping in because it runs flawlessly. Like old DayZ used to get 5 at 10
Yeah, it kept
FPS.
crashing as
It
well,
was
everything.
awful, yeah. Whereas now it's silky smooth. You're getting 100 FPS pretty much at all times. It looks amazing. So at the moment, yeah, I am still interested in it. I still play it from time to time.
So you spoke about when you were playing CS, you really liked the custom maps and the surf maps, and I'm guessing, right? Obviously, we'll come on to your observing, but do you think a lot of your surfing and that kind of things helped you understand the movement and style in CS:GO because you have a very unique way of observing the game?
Yeah, well, I mean, I love movement in most video games. It's one of the more fun aspects other than shooting someone.
Hmm.
Um, like I love any kind of strafing, any kind of movement, any kind of jump, like not exploits, I guess, but b hopping and all that kind of stuff. I love
Yeah.
all of that stuff. So I think it helped in my general CS:GO skill because I have friends now that I think even I play with Sponge every now and then. I
Mm.
look at his movement. He has incredible aim. He's like incredibly smart, but his movement's slightly lacking here and there. Whereas I feel like my movement has definitely been improved a lot by surfing, KZ, B hop, all that stuff.
Sorry, Sponge, I have to agree, right? His movement, my movement, we still play like 1.6 at times compared. Well, he probably plays a bit more like Source, but I can imagine your movement rush is pretty top tier on all of that. But observing, this is now what you're known for mostly, obviously, from what you're doing, all these huge events. But how did you get into it? Like, I can see where people go, I want to be a commentator, I want to be a host and do this kind of things, but like, you made the decision to be an observer, and at times, even though I know you enjoy your job, it's one of those jobs that doesn't often get thanked for. Like, you're not on some of the talent announcements anymore, for example, and this kind of thing. So what was your reason behind it?
Well, it was a lot of happen chance, I guess, to be
Okay.
honest. Like, it technically is through Daisy that any of this even happened anyway, to be honest, because
Oh wow.
I was playing with that Side Syndicate fella, and then eventually through playing with him, I actually met Lauren Pansy,
Mm-hmm.
and so I played some Counter Strike games with Pansy here and there, and there was a point where they needed someone to come in and help out with the point of view streams that ESL did a long time ago.
Yes.
It was where you could hear the players talking, and then you would only view their POVs running around and stuff. So I was asked to do that, so I got flown over and stuff, put up in a hotel, and I had like two PCs, two keyboards,
Oh
and I had
wow.
to connect to the team speaks on each one, and then I observed with one hand for one team, observed the other hand for the other team, and I did that a couple of times, maybe like three times for them, and that's when it wasn't long after that, and they asked me to do season 3 of the online stage of Pro League to actually be the main observer for it.
Damn. Now that must have been quite stressful though, that first POV stuff with two computers trying to operate it like that. When you first got there, can you remember how it all felt when you were looking at it all?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I remember when I first got there, I believe Yanko and Kassad were
Yes.
actually there. They were observing the event that I went down for. Like they were the main observers, and I had like a table next to theirs basically. And I was like, oh yeah, those guys are doing the real stuff.
Mm.
I didn't feel like there was too much pressure on me because I knew not many people watch these. They are cool, but people watching the mainstream at the end of the day, and if they want to hear some cool comms, then they can go over there as well. It was challenging doing it, but yeah, there was definitely a slight butterfly in my tummy, I guess, while I was doing it for sure, because I still felt some pressure going into it.
And observing is a real art form. People may think like, oh, it's just clicking buttons and this, but you can't get away with doing like myself when we used to have commentating and not. This is in the very early days of CS:GO, and there was no observers, so we had to commentate, observe, and do it all ourselves. I used to hate it because you actually really have to focus in on it. Sometimes I just find myself observing and just letting my co-commentator talk a bunch. So for you, how do you explain to people like the intricate details of observing?
I think there's a lot of levels to observing, that's for sure. Like when I started observing it, I was focused on the dots, which dot can see another dot. And that was
Yes.
like, that took a lot of my thought and focus and energy, was just to figure out all the sight lines, who's going to come in contact with who. And it was like a foundation of, I got semi okay at doing that. And then from there, I thought, okay, and now I can try and use cameras a little bit more because, you know, you can do overviews of sites and stuff like that. So I had very few cameras, like A, B, mid, a couple on spawn maybe, and that was the few cameras I had at the time. And then after a while you get better at like showing rotations. Like for example, if a team is gamble stacking to a certain site, there's no action going on, and you could show anything, but I think it's good to show that kind of stuff because then you know, okay, that you can visually see, hey, they're moving towards B now and leaving one guy at A, and oh look, now I can show all the terrorists, they're starting to move towards A now, and there's going to be trouble coming in basically. So there's a lot of different levels to it that's for sure.
Now, what moment did you realize that this could be a career, and how did you get your chance of that? Because you spoke about doing the POV observing stuff, but then obviously you would have got offered a full-time role at ESL where you are now, and you've been there for, oh my God, how many years now?
uh Close to 4, I would say.
Damn. Okay, so when did
Yeah.
this all happen then? How did you realize it? And were you ever skeptical of, okay, this is an actual full-time thing?
Well, because at the time, other than streaming, I had nothing going on, and it
Mm,
wasn't part of my concern that I have nothing to put on a CV or anything like that. I really have done nothing for the past like 4 years on paper, I would say. But it was through doing the POV stuff that I met this guy called Matt Klein, who used to work at
yeah.
ESL. He was a producer at the time, and he was working on Pro League. So when I was a freelancer for season 3, he spoke because we got on well. I was helping him out like before the day with whatever stuff related to the show. And after a while, he was saying to me, we would like to get someone more full time to help work on Pro League and observe Pro League as well. And it was basically through that, and I took every opportunity I got pretty much. I didn't go, nah, I can't be bothered doing that. I have stuff
Mm.
going on. I didn't have anything going on, so I had no reason to say no. And I thought, if there's a full time gig, then I'll have something for my CV. If it lasts a year, then hey. But it's lasted much more of that, and I'm glad it has, to be honest.
And out of interest, obviously you were streaming and observing at the first part of it. What point did you stop streaming and just focus on the observing side of things? And did you ever think that, oh, maybe the streaming could have been bigger than what the observing could have been?
Yes, it was season 3. That's when I pretty much stopped because that's when I had to constantly fly and do all that kind of stuff. And
Hmm.
streaming's tough because you can grow like a viewership. Like at the time, the max viewership I was getting was like close to like 200 viewers here and there. And it was a case where I left for a weekend or a week. I'd come back and you'd see the noticeable drop off, and then I would go
Yeah.
again for the other point of view stuff, and I constantly was seeing more and more drop off basically. And it's if you're not consistent with streaming, it's very hard to keep a following. I feel like unless you're like some crazy personality or something like that. So I basically stopped around the time Pro League started, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was almost instantly as this all went down.
Yeah, and I do think once if I kept streaming and stuff like that, and yeah, sure, it could have got better and better and better, and I definitely was slowly growing as well, but
Mm.
I don't know, that was a risk. Both were a risk. I knew one
Yeah.
way I would have a secure like salary and stuff like that, so I decided to go that option in the end, and I'm very happy with it, to be honest. I probably wouldn't change it. Like I think it would be interesting to know what would have happened if I kept streaming, but who knows? Maybe I slowly lost viewership, and then that was that. I had nothing to fall back on.
Now, on the whole ESL side of things, right, you're completely with ESL, you don't operate as a freelancer or anything, so you get all your time working with these guys. But when I look at other events happen, so say another tournament organizer has a major, to me, as someone who watches almost all Counter-Strike, I see there's a significant difference between how you observe to other observers. And this isn't to like throw shade on other observers, it's not like they're doing badly, but you have a unique style that you've crafted and created yourself. Do you sometimes wish when you're watching other streams and other tournaments, you feel like, oh, okay, I wish I was observing this, for example? Because for me, you should be at every single major, and there's no bias in there on my side of things. It's just how I view the game and how it's observed, and I like the way you do it. And I see some people think that, oh, well, you should only be able, you can just observe only off the mini map, or you only observe off just playing and following the game. And everyone's got their different way of doing it. But for me, you give the most fluid and storytelling style.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate that. I think there definitely are a lot of very good observers still in the scene. That's for sure. But I mean, like, a part of me thinks, no, I'm fine not working those events because ESL have a lot of events, right? So I feel like I'm gone every month as it is on various events, various projects, and stuff like that. So, you know, I've got one major under my belt at the moment, which is Katowice, and I was very happy. I was very nervous that event compared to every other event. Like,
Oh,
I
I
was
bet.
much more confident this Katowice that just happened compared to the one that was a major. But it feels good to have a major under my belt now. But I don't mind. I get to observe a lot of Counter Strike as it is, and I want other observers to be able to do their thing as well because there are a lot of good ones out there. And in my opinion, it shouldn't be me doing everything as well. I would definitely get burnt out at that stage, that's for sure.
Yeah,
But I do love
there's a lot of
observing.
Counter Strike.
But with ESL, I have more than enough observing to do. I'll say that much.
And how did you perfect your observing? Like, how did you build upon it? Because obviously, from where you started, it's very different to how you're doing it now. How did you continue to make improvements? Because again, we see maybe now on each map you have so many camera things pointed out. You've plotted things. You have little cool bits where we go to even just silly things like chickens or whatever. Or you do a fly through that's different to everyone else. Does this just stuff that comes up into your mind when you're not working, or how does it plan out?
That could definitely be 50-50. There are definitely times where I've made a camera for a game literally like 10 minutes before it goes live because I can
Oh
make the
wow,
cameras pretty quickly. But it was very gradual, like because I've observed a lot of Counter Strike games. I wish
yeah,
I knew the number, but it is over the past like four and a half years. It's an uncountable number for me. Like I honestly don't know. So I think I got so much more comfortable with doing the base level stuff, and then I thought, okay, I'm going to use the cameras more. And then I thought maybe I should add even more cameras, and then slowly but surely I added more and more and more, and then I can show all kinds of stuff. And I also feel like less pressure as a whole when I observe now. I'm much more comfortable, and that's when
mm.
I feel like I may do the quirky stuff where we find a chicken, or I do some like manual flying around and stuff like that. That just comes from like I don't feel a lot of pressure anymore because I know I can do it.
Yeah.
I've done it enough to know I should be able to do a good job, and I think that's where I start screwing around a little bit here and there.
Now, what's the difference for you between online and offline observing, or is there any difference, or do you just do it exactly the same?
Uh, I do it the exact same. However, the games play out very differently. I would say.
Yes.
Um, it's crazy. Online people play very reserved, very like apart from teams like Fnatic who play like it's online no matter what.
Yeah, they're pretty
Um,
wild.
yeah, they are very wild. I do love it though. But teams definitely play different on both. Like online people take way less risks. I feel like they'll more likely to get a kill and then run away.
Yeah.
Which in my mind, I kind of wish they would stay because then if they die, then it's one less player to think about, you know. So it does actually help me. But online can be crazy. Like I think it was Fioria versus MIBR during this
Oh
Road
my
to Rio
God.
stuff. Madness,
Yeah, I can
absolute
imagine.
madness. I mean, they were very fast rounds, and it was fairly obvious what was going on because it was all directed at one side and stuff. But absolute madness. It can get very chaotic on online, especially with like lower level teams. Even with the higher
Yeah.
level teams, they do a lot of stuff where you think, oh, why didn't you do this or that? You could have done this, and it is different. That's for sure. To me, it feels that way.
Now that Furia versus MIBR one, right, just as an example, because they are two explosive teams, and when they say them, they're hitting hard, they're rushing fast. How do you choose at one point which player to observe? Is it just the first one in, or when say MIBR, then maybe so? Say let's do it this example. Furious T side, they're rushing Inferno, they're going B side, and you look at the MIBR players. Where do you start on it? Do you have a feeling of like, oh, he's probably going to get the entry, or do I need to sit on the defensive player to see if he's going to hold it? How do you choose?
It definitely depends. That's for sure. Usually, out of the spawn, because I'll usually have like an overview of the spawn, so I'll probably follow them at the start, and
Yeah,
then I would like show the T's like moving up banana, and then it just depends. If there's a CT with an AWP, and it's obvious he's going to pick barrels or car, whatever you call it, I will go for him 9 times out of 10. Or
hmm,
if they're it very often depends. If I see Art, for example, Art is a very aggressive player, and I see he
sneaky
has a
out.
Mac 10 and he's like first in the pack, I probably will pick him because he's some. And then you get the clip of him just like killing two like around car and sandbags area instantly.
Mm.
Like it's definitely tough. But most times, like if teams are pushing into a site, I will definitely stick with the CTs for the most part because there's a higher chance of them getting like something that's really cool to look at than a T. It is annoying when a T walks into a site and he instantly kills both defenders. Then it doesn't look as good. But when you're looking from the other way, the CT could have gotten ace, like just holding his position. He could have done that. So it's I usually try and look for the player who has the highest possibility of like popping off, I would say.
Okay. Now, we did an interview back at EPL, right, when we were in Odense, and obviously I can see everything that's going on in the back lines, but just explain to everyone at home how many people are involved, because it's not just you when it comes to observing, right? There's this whole system behind you, from capturing frags that may have been missed, from the replays, from everything that goes on. Just break that down for me.
So at our main events, we have like a broadcast innovation unit basically, and they just like amplify everything that I could do on my own, but they just make it like they just keep pushing the notch basically. So like if it's an online thing, for example, it's me, my main PC, my map PC, and that's it. There's nothing else going on. But on a main event, I still have my two PCs, so my setup is the same. However, sat next to me, I'll have another guy who'll be doing cinematic observing. So he'll have like more advanced pre-programmed like crazy cameras which
Yeah.
I can't really incorporate into my observing for the most part, and they will just like add on everything. So like online I
Okay.
would select, oh, T spawn, okay, here's a camera to show them like rolling out of spawn. But on LAN I don't do any of that. I always have a guy next to me doing that kind of stuff, so I don't even have to think about it. I can focus more on just POVs, and I can take like grenade cameras as well because that's a very like tight timing thing. If the guy throws a grenade, I know where it's going to go. I have a camera. I take that camera basically. But everything else, they control all of that, and it is a lot of work off my shoulders. That's for sure. Just
Yeah.
so I can focus down. So I do appreciate it. Like, to be honest. And then we'll have another guy sat next to them who's doing the replays, and he will be on basically a delayed feed of the game, and he'll just watch the main feed and just basically watch the kill feed. If anything happens, or if someone falls off something and dies, or if someone team kills someone, because obviously if someone team kills someone, it's very likely I'm not going to catch it because they shouldn't have
Yeah.
team killed the person, and you can't really predict that kind of stuff, to be honest.
Of course.
So they capture all those, like, I don't want to say I miss frags or anything, but maybe one or two times it happens. And luckily, my delay observer will bail me out of that, and then we replay it through EVS or through whatever system, and that's most of it. We also have like an in-game technical director,
Hmm.
and their job will be like cutting into game, cutting out of game, like showing various crowd shots and all that kind of stuff, bringing up the economy bar, like when we look at the players and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't understand that one as much, but it's kind of like my job, but he just shows the game, and then he has his own little stories he makes outside of the game with the people in the crowds and the stadiums and all that stuff.
So there's a hell of a lot going on around you. But I know, even with how many finals and big events I've done, there's still a part of my job where I think, oh, okay, this is a huge match. Something I get a little bit nervous, or you start to feel it. Do you ever get that feeling anymore? Are you just very comfortable with how it all
Oh
goes
yeah,
for you?
every now and then, yes, definitely. Like some events, I have these some of these events I'm like completely neutral, which I love. I'm just calm. I still get excited when I see something crazy. I get excited, but I definitely feel pressured sometimes. Like when it comes to a grand final, my hands are always sweating a little bit, and I just
Mm,
have to like tell myself, yeah, you've done this before. You know what you're doing. Don't
yeah.
worry about it. But definitely there are times where I do feel the little butterflies, and it's different from event to event. Some events, for some reason, I just don't feel it, and then some events I definitely feel it more. But it's just about calming myself down, tell myself not to worry about it. I know what I'm doing. Let's do it, basically.
How was it for your first major? Because we know for everyone else in CS:GO, right, the major is the dream. You want to be able to do a major in your role.
The major was pretty cool. Like I was definitely nervous on that one. It was a long tournament as well. Like
Yeah.
because I was involved in the minors, which lasted like 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks later we started like all the different stages, which in total lasted 3 weeks. So it was a long stretch, which is good because the more observing you're doing, the better you are going to be at it.
Hmm.
Like when I have to observe an event and I haven't observed anything for like a couple of months, that's definitely a lot harder than when it's all in one string. But also the problem is with one string is you because you're gonna have a couple of bad rounds of game. It's just gonna happen. It's not gonna play out the way you think. It just won't in certain cases. And then those things can like linger in your mind a little bit, and that can be hard to deal with. And then it feels like the pressure's more like this. The next 7 rounds need to be perfect because of one mistake that happened 2 rounds ago or something like that. So the pressure definitely built up, but I had a good team. I had a lot of different observers around me for Katowice, so it was definitely a good team. So I felt comfortable that even if I fell off, I could get someone else in, and obviously that relieved my pressure a lot too.
Yeah, that definitely helps. Now, favorite event you've ever had to work and why?
That is a hard one. Oh, it's probably between a couple of events here. I would say, oh, three events. I would say. Can I do all three? Is that
Go for
allowed?
it. Go for it.
I would say when we went to Dallas for ESL Pro League Finals, that was great because Dallas, it was warm weather, the hotel was beautiful, there was a pool there. I never swam in it, but I was next to it sometimes, so that was really nice. I shot some guns in a shooting range in Dallas.
Ooh.
That was pretty. I've never done that before.
Yep.
Well, I guess technically at one point I did, but I was shooting like a deagle and stuff like that. It was crazy. It didn't make any sense. So that was fun. But I didn't really do much other than that, really. Another event that was crazy cool was one of the ESL One New Yorks, where we did the group stage out of the Mixer studio, and
Yes,
that was
I was that one. Yes.
that was pretty crazy because that was like we were in Manhattan, like fully in the city center. We had to walk from our hotel in Manhattan to the Mixer studio, and we like walked by Times Square. So like I would walk to work that day, and I would look to my right, and the Times Square would be there, and that was kind of
That's
crazy. I
cool.
really felt like I was in the middle of New York. I felt like a New Yorker for the few days that we were there. That was really cool. And I'd probably say the other one was like probably the Shanghai event we did. It was an IEM. That was very cool because like I'd never really been to China before that, and we were in the center of Shanghai in a crazy nice hotel, and we had like a lot of free time that event as well. So we got to wander around, we got to see stuff because on some events, as you know, we don't get to
Oh,
see much.
yes.
We're there, we're gone. We see our hotel room, we see the airport, we see the venue. That's it. Whereas in Shanghai, I felt like I saw a lot of stuff, and that was very unique. So yeah, I think those three events were probably my top events.
Brilliant, brilliant. And that New York one was really special, man. It was so cool of us being around there. Like I remember just being able to walk everywhere and kind of actually feel like a New Yorker for a while.
And you
Now,
felt like you belonged.
yes, yeah, we really did after all that time there. Now, getting on to teams, right? Because I know when I'm watching teams, there's certain teams I prefer looking at and seeing. Is there teams that you like to observe and you think, oh, I get to see this team now? Like, is there ever like a bit of anticipation of, oh, what are they going to show us next and why?
I would say definitely so. There's a few teams on that list for me really. Like Simple best player of all time.
Of
I want to see
course.
him no matter what. So whenever Navi play, I'd love that. Like I really like observing Simple because he's just crazy, and that's the
How do
same
you
with all
stop
like
being
these top
biased, by
players.
the way? Sorry to cut you there, but just how do you stop, like, because for me, right, if I was observing, if I had the control, I'd just be like, cool, simple camera. And then if he's dead, someone else, fine. But, like, obviously you have to direct it because it's a show.
You can be a little biased, James. I think you can definitely be a little. If someone like Simple's on the server, even if he's in a spot where I probably would pick the other guy, I'm gonna pick Simple. He's probably gonna do something ridiculous.
Yeah.
He always does something crazy. I definitely do use a bias every now and then. Not much. Most of the time, they're just dots running around. But if I know it's simple, you know? The dude's crazy. So I definitely show some bias towards certain players. I'm thinking of other teams, like fundamental teams like Astralis are really good because everything they do makes sense. And they have a lot of nade setups as well, which I like to catch. So I definitely say Astralis are up there too. Teams like Fnatic, they're the hardest team to observe because they'll attack sides at the same time, which makes it incredibly hard to observe because everything's going on all at the same time. Yeah, so Fnatic are one of the hardest teams to observe, that's for sure. But I love it. I love it because they're knifing everybody. They're going, it's crazy, man. I do love it.
You've always got to look for some shenanigans coming out of the Fnatic
Oh
camp,
yes.
that's for sure. Now, is there teams where you just feel like, oh, okay, I know what you're going to do, nothing's really changed, and you almost get like into this mode of rinse and repeat with it, like, okay, this is expected?
Um, I don't know. I mean, G2 were having some woes recently during Road to Rio, so it was a shame watching those guys like give away certain rounds that they maybe shouldn't have. But for the most part, I feel like teams come in fresh every day. Every round is a different round. No round is the same. So everything always plays out differently. Always. Even if score lines are the same, every round is completely different from each other every single game, I feel like. So I don't know it's too much of like standard setups really. And especially because I observe so many teams as well, it's definitely hard to be like, oh, this is the Astralis like default. Like I know on certain maps on the CT sides where they're more likely to play, or you know, Dupree's more likely to aim up mid on Dust 2 because he does
Yeah.
that a lot. So there's definitely stuff I see over and over again, but everyone plays so different and the rounds play out so differently every time that it doesn't matter too much, to be honest.
Now, have you ever thought about observing another game, or even had the chance to observe another game, or do you think it's just CS:GO is what you love and what you want to stick with?
I mean, I definitely love CS:GO, and it's definitely what I want to stick with. I've been asked if I was interested in doing some other games here and there, but I like doing CS:GO because I love CS:GO. I
Yeah.
play CS:GO every day. It's, I just love it. So it's hard for me to observe another game that I don't really know. That would be the hardest thing. I would have to know that game and love that game to be able to observe it. Like the only other thing I observed was Danger Zone one time,
Oh
which is
yes.
a Counter Strike little mini game, and that was pretty cool. I definitely enjoyed that. That was great fun, to be honest. But that's the only thing I've observed other than standard competitive Counter Strike.
Now, Rush, I'm smiling away here because you just mentioned Danger Zone, so I'm going to skip a little bit ahead here because you had a quite a famous Danger Zone moment, didn't you, during a show match? And
Yeah,
probably wasn't your best moment. You want to talk to me about
no. Well, yeah, so I was very nicely asked if I wanted to be in this Danger Zone show match we did,
that? Yep.
and I got to play in it. I played alongside Pimp, Jacob, and he's a nice guy. We all like Jacob. He's a pretty chill dude. But he hadn't really played that much Danger Zone at the time as well, so I was teaching him a little bit what's going on. And it went okay. I don't think it went that bad. We did come joint last place, so we didn't come last place. But I killed like Stewie 2K, I killed like Henry G and stuff like that. So I felt like
Yeah.
okay. I took a couple of big players out the game here and there, but there was one situation where I was, messing about with my little tablet and
Hmm.
the zone was encroaching. And if you've never played a battle royale game before, you're all slowly funneled into the map, and there's a zone that encloses. However, in Danger Zone, there can be pockets around the map where there's already like that's the zone. It's already
Yes.
and basically, what happened is the zone came in. I had to run around this massive wall, and I ran into another zone basically, which was already there. And I died to the zone. It was shown. Thank you, DJ. He was observing at the time. Thank you for that. And basically, yeah, I died. I think it was Vince and Moses casting at the time. I
Hmm.
think. And they were, calling me all kinds of names, being very disrespectful. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, it was
It's all
funny.
better.
It was for entertainment. I don't mind. Yeah, obviously, I was getting a lot of flack. I leave from there, go into the control room to all my observing compadres,
Yeah.
and they're all like, some of them didn't even look at me, and I understand it. People make mistakes. I would hope they could see through my mistake. But it was for entertainment. It was all for fun. So yeah, what
The
can you
thing I
do?
loved about it most was that like you are so aware when you observe, and just it had to be you that got hit by that. It had to be the observer that didn't notice what was going on. But talking about this, right? You were in the show match, but also you have started to have more and more time on screen. We have an observer camera where it has a little webcam of you. You can even talk in through points now. Now I know at the beginning you weren't such a fan of this. So how come we started to see more of you? And is this something we're going to see more of you do? Because I really enjoy it, and I think a lot of the viewers do as well, as getting to see and hear from a different perspective than just us talking on the on-screen talent.
I think it's just because I'm more comfortable with everything over time, right? Because I'm in my fourth, fifth year, or whatever it is, and I know a lot of you guys who are on the camera all the time, and I speak with a lot of you guys, and
Yeah.
especially with observing, I'm listening to you guys non-stop. Like casting, the amount of hours of casting I've listened to is the same as the amount of games I've observed.
Yeah.
It's just a part of it. It's one of your senses while observing. So I think it's just through listening all the time and yeah, just here and there. It just kind of happened over time, really, and people enjoyed it. And we looks like we'll do little bits here and there more of it. I'm on camera right now, and I
Oh
like the
yes.
first time I was on camera, I hated it. I felt super
I
nervous.
remember.
It felt like a day before an exam and stuff like that. It wasn't that fun, to be honest. But over time now, I'm just kind of like, oh, whatever. It doesn't really matter. I'm just talking with people I know. If it was someone I didn't
Mm.
know, maybe it'd feel a bit different. But every time I've done this, I've been talking to you, I've been talking to Chad, I've been talking to Henry, Alex, all these people. So it's not. I don't really feel that much pressure on me when I do it now.
Now, I would say one thing, right? There's obviously talent that've been doing this for a long time. There's newer talent coming in. Me, you, Hugo, Harry always have little moments and chill talking times. But specifically, you and Sponge, Chad, have a very good relationship. And I know for him, he cares probably more than anyone about CSGO and the broadcast. And he really takes his time to get into the game. But he's worked very closely with you on a lot of things. And you bounce a lot of ideas off each other. How did this all come about? Because it just was like, normally there's a distinct difference, right? Especially at the very high up talent, they don't normally kind of they just do their job, they want to go, and they keep moving on with things. Where
They don't
Chad
fret it.
yeah, it's a little bit like that, right? If I'm being honest, but obviously for me, I've never really cared about being up there or numbers and stuff like that. I come and chat to everyone. You see me rolling around wherever, but Chad definitely got very close to you in terms of a working and outside of it relationship. So how did that all come about?
It was strange, really, yeah. Because I mean, obviously, I never would have guessed this in a million years. Because at the beginning of this, I used to just watch, Counter Strike on Twitch, and I'd see Renegades play, and I'd see, oh, this
Yeah.
funny guy's pretty funny. He seems like a funny guy. At the time, I would have imagined that he's become one of my mates. To be honest, it was pretty random. But there was a time where he was basically moving to Cologne because he was doing more talent work, and obviously
Yep.
he lived in Australia at the time, and traveling from Australia every time there's an event is not. You
Not
don't want
fun.
to do that. You don't want to do 30 hours of travel every single time. So he basically moved into Cologne and had like a little base here. And it's true that he was going some slightly tough times here and there in the past. And I was just someone that I could talk to for a while, and we just chat. I'd help him through some of his darker times, and it just kind of happened. I completely random, but yeah, he's a nice guy. He's a lovely guy. He definitely cares about me, that's for sure. And I care about that dude too. I like him a lot. He's always looked after me, and at every event he'll like if he can, he'll get me like a coffee here and there. He'll do
Yeah.
all sorts of stuff for me. He's definitely a good lad. So I don't know. It just kind of happened, and Chad is definitely one of those guys who does like stop into control rooms a lot and says hello, like you often do as well. And it's like he's very interested in improving the show all the time, like all the
100%.
little tools, like the broadcast innovation unit, ESL, anything they come up with, they are talking with Chad and they're building together basically, and they make some crazy cool stuff. And he's always up for it. He puts in a lot of work, that guy.
And what I love, right, is you're both in very different roles. But like I said to you at the beginning, you to me are very smart, and also is Chad, and not just in the game but out of the game. Which is why when you two get together and you have these ideas, I've just listened to conversations before, and it's like you guys really start to try and think of what you can do, what can be added here, and things. And like he jumps in and has these little segments during the pauses and stuff. But how many ideas and stuff do you guys just throw around that maybe we don't even see the light of day with? Because I know obviously we can't implement everything.
When we're playing and joking around, I'm sure there's been plenty of ideas that wouldn't really work on a broadcast at all. But he's always thinking. That's the thing. He's always thinking how he can explain stuff, just make the analyst segments, a bit more interesting for people. And I mean, that stuff he does like in the middle of a game, like there's a technical timeout, and he comes in, he breaks something down. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Like that's
in
I
such
know.
a short amount of time.
Oh yeah, I think we really started doing that back in Unsa and for our Pro League finals, and he was nervous doing it, which was funny to me because I was like, "How are you nervous doing this?
Yeah,
You do this all the
never
time
do you think
anyway."
that.
No, exactly. So that was crazy to me. He was actually like I could tell he was nervous even while he was doing it, like the first few times. Which I don't know. That was really funny to me because it's crazy though. He really does. He loves Counter Strike.
Yeah, like we all do. But yeah, you and Chad have a special way of getting your love into the game, and we really see it in what you guys do. Now, for you, right, you were saying, oh, you're not actually like look to be a pro and stuff, but Rush, I've seen you play. You can play CS:GO very well. I think your knowledge of the game is huge. Obviously, from what you get to see as an observer, right? You know these smoke lineups. We have your tips and tricks videos that go out on the ESL. It's like, can you go on do it for me? Please do it for me. We got to get the sound
I have
bite.
like this pro tips thing, and at the start of every video, I go, "Hey, future pros."
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
There
And
it is.
thing is,
There it
for
is.
us who know this stuff and we've watched it, it's not a big deal. But for anyone new, and that's what we're looking at, still new people coming to CS:GO, you're showing them things that may seem basic to people with thousands of hours in the game, but it's actually so important. But you see this stuff so much. So how much do you actually think that all this observing has improved your game? Like, do you get like mini instinct feelings while playing a game thinking, oh, I've seen this happen, this is what could be played out next, or this is where I should go?
I feel like it must have done something in my subconscious for sure. Definitely so. It's helped up here, maybe in certain cases. There are a lot of times I play the game now where I'm pretty confident. I know kind of where, if I'm attacking, for example, I know where the CTs are a lot of the times without really thinking about it. I just know.
Yeah.
And I think that definitely has come from observing and stuff. But it doesn't help my aim, that's for sure. And that's the one thing I can still always get better at. DM for hours and hours every day. It doesn't matter. My aim will always be at a certain level. But in terms of the smoke lineup stuff, I'll be honest with you, James. I've observed millions of people throwing smokes. I've made my videos as well. Smoke grenades in my brain, they go after. If I don't do that
Oh,
smoke every
really?
single day, it just vanishes. It's so annoying, honestly, because I would know every smoke in the game. If I had the photographic memory or something like that, I would know every single smoke, flash,
I'm about
molly,
to say, yeah, I
ever
thought
in
you
the
would.
game.
Okay, I'll give
It's
you a
really
tip.
annoying, to
I'll
be
give you a
honest.
tip. I have a sheet, right, that I printed out and I put it on the right hand side of my screen based on the map that I'm playing. So, because like for me, I'm similar to you. I know all these smokes, but I generally will just, if I don't play CS for a week, it's completely out of my head. So I just printed them all out, have the pictures, have the lineups, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just quickly look there. Oh,
Good
yep. It's not
idea.
very good if you need to be fast, I'll be honest, but I'm only
Yeah.
playing like and Face It, so it's not too bad. I can deal with it. It's a way of getting around it. Now,
It's crazy. Yeah, I wish I remembered all these lineups.
yeah.
It's crazy. Even like my pro tip stuff, like the certain smokes there, it's like I know I've recorded myself doing this smoke. I
Yeah.
know the smoke. I need it right now. Why can I not remember it? And it's like I know the spot I stand, but is it this pixel? Is it that pixel? Who knows? It's crazy.
Now, one thing you definitely have, right, is the ability, like you were saying, where it's offline you and wherever you can possible, is you can hear the commentators while observing. How much does that help you with your job as well? And how difficult is it for you to have synergy with different commentators? Because I guess like you're doing loads with Hugo and Harry, you're doing loads with Henry and Sado and Machine and stuff, so it's probably easier with them. But is it difficult also with newer commentators coming in that you're not used to? How does it all work?
With new commentators, I wouldn't say it's more difficult or anything like that because what I'm using the casters for is like if they're starting to talk about certain areas of the map or situations, I'll always immediately try and swap to that and show that if
Yeah.
I feel like I can do that. If I feel like there's nothing that's going to happen, if they say yeah, Rops is a sick player, he's got incredible aim, I will just swap to Rops. Simple as
Mm.
that. And just so you see because we have the pictures of him and stuff, so you see the player who they're talking about. You know, you're connecting it instantly. And I would like to think, hopefully, at times I also guide the casters as well, if something that they might not see. If I show certain rotations, you know, there'll be times where I show them and then they'll talk about it. I feel like we've made like a package of this round now. The whole story is shown, communicated, and it's all perfect. So
Yeah.
having caster audio is incredibly helpful because I feel like you can just play off of each other a lot of times, you know, like and oftentimes they might catch stuff that I'm missing, like. They could say, yeah, it looks like Woxic might be starting to peak here. And then I'll be like, oh, yeah, he is.
Mm.
Thank you. So every now and then they help. There's a term called caster baited, which is where you get baited into something where
Oh
nothing's
yes.
going to happen. You know, sometimes even I can think, yeah, nothing's going to happen here. But I'll show it anyway, and they'll have to quickly swap to something on the other side of the map. But that's fine. I have no problem with that. I think it's all good fun in the end.
Now, kind of get onto my final couple of questions here. Where do you see the next steps in observing? Like, is there things that are missing that you want CS:GO to add? Is there things that you think can improve your job some more that you haven't been able to yet get the tools for? What do you see the future of observing as?
That is a hard one because every I just expect a more progression in the tools over time. I would say
Yeah.
because like everything has grown and grown more and more, and you can know you if you want to do crazy cameras, you can do crazy cameras. If you want to do basic stuff, you can do that, and it's slowly incorporating over time. So honestly, I'm not too sure. Like we have our broadcast innovation unit is always trying to help me out and help like observe better and stuff like that by
Mm-hmm.
giving me more info and stuff like that. So right now they're working on a custom version of the HUD, which I will have on my map PC, which no one
Ooh.
will ever see. And I'm hoping to get stuff like if someone pulls out a grenade, for example, it'll just show a big grenade next to their like player card,
Oh, that'd
basically,
be
because
sick.
then I know what if he's holding a HE, he might throw it, and because like
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, it's very hard to notice on all the radars we have at the moment because you know it's just for the information, it's for the viewer just to know
Mm-hmm.
what they have and stuff. But for me, it's definitely beneficial for that kind of information to know as soon as possible because you have to look for all this kind of stuff and it can be very difficult. So they're just trying to help me, and also like I want like a larger kill number, so how many kills they have in a round because
Mm-hmm.
a guy could be on for an ace and it's kind of be hard to tell because you know you have a
So
small icon,
small. Yeah.
he's got 3 kills, you know, he's in a position where he could get the other two, but so much stuff happens in a round. Sometimes I can't even tell you who killed who in the round. Even if I
I
was on
bet.
the guy, I couldn't tell you who killed who because you know, especially maps like Nuke, if they hit top site,
Oh God. Yeah. Good
I
luck.
just have to pick someone, you know, and I have to pick. There's a guy top hut, and then there's a guy heaven. I know that. So those two are my key guys. And then it's always a shame, like we've seen on DreamHack, they caught this sick thing where Biomass from FaZe at the moment, he knocks through
Yes.
the door and he gets like this sick 3K spray transfer. Catching that kind of stuff is incredibly difficult because you just don't know. You don't
No.
know. He could have been killed by the first guy. You have no idea. So I try to. That's where I would do the CTs and show and then there's times where they're flashed the entire time, and then someone might get a 2K, but you can't think about that kind of stuff
Unpredictable.
too much. Yeah, very unpredictable at times.
Now, finally here, Rush, and we don't have too many more minutes for this, but what advice would you give to someone who's looking to get into observing? It's actually what they want to do, and they're thinking of that as like, hey, I want to give this a shot.
Well, I came into it in a strange way, so it's definitely hard to replicate that way I came in for it, but just keep your ears open. Try to talk to people who are doing more local stuff around you. If there's a local LAN going on and they don't have an observe anything, they're just planning on using Auto Director, just say, hey, I'll do this for you, you know? And then eventually you can build some kind of like portfolio, I would say, and then you start sending it to other TOs and stuff like that, and just see where it goes, really. Like, it's definitely a weird one and hard one to get into because there's always CS being played. Someone's got to observe it at the end of the day, so there should be stuff to do, I would say.
Oh, Rush, well, it's been even eye-opening for me, and I know you well on this, and it's a very interesting role you have, and it's a vital role that sometimes doesn't get the praise it needs for all the hard work that goes into it. But thank you very much for giving me the time to interview you, mate. And for anyone watching, if you want to hit Rush up, you want to see him on socials, you'll be able to see his Twitter down below, and make sure you do reach out to him if you have some ideas or you have some thoughts or you want to get some questions on observing, because Rush is a very approachable guy of all this. But this has been another episode of The Connector. We got a few more coming your way. We're going to keep bringing you all the different profiles we can from the CSGO world, the best esports in the world. We'll see you on the next episode.